We would like to thank Carifit for sponsoring our first season of the Babywearing podcast. Carifit is not just a carrier, but a whole parenting support package. Get the carrier designed to help you and your baby bond and move together your way. Also, get access to the Carifit app, which includes postnatal support and baby wearing, core and pelvic floor, sleep, fitness, and so much more. Check out Carifit and all they offer at www.getcarifit.com. You can also use our code Coorie for a discount when you buy.
Hello, and welcome to the Coorie and Carry On podcast. I'm Gemma,
And I'm Laurna,
and we are trained carrying consultants.
here to help you carry your wee one safely and securely. And we want to say a big thank you to Carifit, our sponsors for the podcast. And you can grab your own with our code CoorieCarry, and all the information is in the show notes.
Yes, so today, very exciting, we are going to be talking about social media carrying. So we're looking at the brands that are coming up on social media and the advertising and things. And the reason we thought this might be fun to talk about is because Laurna recently went to the European Babywearing Conference and delivered a talk on this very subject. So she is very, very knowledgeable about it. Meanwhile, I just hang out in social media a lot. So,
Yeah,
because,
see a lot.
well, it's that or parent, so what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, either one or the other.
So, talk us through some stuff, Lorna.
So basically I talked about how brands will advertise and what they show isn't always safe or correct, which is really frustrating for us, isn't it? Like when we're trying to
Oh, yeah.
promote the message of safe carrying and show things correctly, and then a brand comes up and shares an influencer's photo that is unsafe and borderline dangerous sometimes, and then they'll share it. So if you like, if you're a non-trained just member of the public, just had a baby, and then you're scrolling through social media and you see a brand photo sharing a carrier photo, you're going to expect that that is correct because the brand is sharing it. And surely,
Yeah.
if the brand who makes the item and promotes and sells the item, they should know best. And unfortunately, that's not always the case, because
No.
not everything that the brands share or promote on social media is always safe or correct. And there seems to be an epidemic at the moment with it. Just all the brands, not all of them, sorry, a lot of brands and a lot of new brands are showing unsafe photos and unsafe videos and tutorials that are awful. And it's because, like, new people that have a baby and they go and watch it, and they see, as soon as you have a baby, you start scrolling social media, you start looking things up for babies, and then you will be bombarded with all these adverts of this is the best carrier, or this is safe, or this is suitable from newborn, and all these things. And if you don't know, then you're going to believe that because that's what the brand's saying, and it's not always the same.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, social media is incredibly smart. Just talking about the actual algorithms that exist, not just social media, obviously, the algorithms that the internet runs on. So, like, if you, for example, were to search for, because you were giving somebody a baby shower, if you start searching for baby items will start appearing in all of your adverts across all platforms and across all websites, because you are tracked constantly. It's a little bit terrifying. But I think when you are a vulnerable parent, and all parents, I mean, I know lots of people don't like being classified as vulnerable, but as a new parent, whether it's your first baby or your 40th, you are vulnerable because, I mean, I remember being a new parent, I would have done anything to remove that sort of bone tired feeling, that feeling of being hollow because I was so tired,
Yeah,
or
it's
to
so
just
draining.
yeah. Yeah, even and it doesn't mean you don't like it. Like I loved being a new parent. Like the newborn stage is my favorite stage. I love it.
It's the best.
I know a
They
lot of
stay
people
put.
don't, but
They stay
yeah,
put
well,
and
they
they don't
stay
answer
put,
back.
and don't get me wrong, it is exhausting, but in a very sort of sort of
A fulfilling
easy
way.
way. Like it's just, yeah, it's just you've got, like, there's 5 things that could be wrong,
Yeah.
but again, I didn't have children that were screaming all day and night. I didn't have children who had unidentified issues. Mine were fairly straightforward. So I'm not saying that anybody who doesn't like the newborn stage is wrong. It's just I did. I really enjoyed it. But I think when you're in that stage and you would give anything for an hour of sleep, or to stop your baby crying, or to just calm them down, or to get a little bit of rest, when you see these adverts appear, it is very predatory. And again, as a new parent, you will fling money at the problem, because what else can you do? You can't fix your baby. There's nothing wrong with your
Yeah.
baby. Your baby's just being a baby.
Yeah.
So what can you do? You try and fix everything else. And so I think when we see brands making claims that are like, this is super easy to use it like this, it looks like this. And then we go, okay, chill, I'll put my baby in like that. But then your baby's at risk, but you don't know enough to know your baby's at risk. I think it's
Yeah.
really problematic that these brands can do that without any sort of recourse.
Yeah. And that's what it is. The brands will show things or share things that are just unsafe. A lot of the time, they're completely unsafe. And as educators, we will always reach out. We will try and speak to them. We will comment, so that I will try and reach out to brands many, many times. And sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, it's very, very frustrating, especially if that brand has a really big reach and you know
Yes.
that all these people, all these vulnerable new parents are going to see this content and think that that's correct. Like for me, as a first time parent with my first, if I'd seen these, and I did, I remember seeing
Yeah.
my first carrier it did it all. And I was like, oh, that's
Oh, yeah.
exactly what I need. I need a carrier that does it all, because that's going to be the one for me. I've got a dog, I need to get out. Just it's cheap and it's easy, and yeah, and it was absolutely hellish. And looking back now, some of the instructions were really, really dodgy.
Yeah.
And like, thankfully, I could feel that. And when I put it on, I was like, this doesn't feel right, doesn't feel safe. And I never used it again. And thankfully, I did more research and got a correct item. But a lot of the time, people won't know because they're copying a photo or the video and the instructions and
Yeah.
think, okay, that's what it looks like. So that must be right. That must be safe. And it's a lot of the time recently, especially on social media at the moment, it seems to be aesthetics over safety, and this is fashionable, and your
Yeah.
baby's not a fashion item. You can be fashionable while
No.
you use a slinger carrier, but that is second to safety, or even third or fourth. It's right down the list. Your baby's safety in a slinger carrier is number one. It's priority at all times. And we
Yeah.
are going to talk about safety a lot in this episode, but we are going to do a full episode just on safety because there's a lot to say. And
Yeah.
yeah, it needs to have its own episode. But that's the thing, and babies will be harmed, and babies have been harmed because
Yeah.
someone, and it's not the parents' fault because the parents follow on the brand's advice.
No, it's never the parents' fault. It's
No.
never the parents' fault. I cannot stress that enough.
Mm-hmm.
You will occasionally hear about bad outcomes of babies and carriers. It is never the parents' fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because we shouldn't be assigning blame to something that is a tragic accident.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not something that, as a parent, I would ever want placed on my shoulders, because I would carry enough of that as it is. That blame would
Yeah.
always lie on my shoulders, regardless of what anyone said to me.
Yeah.
And as a society, we shouldn't be looking to assign blame to the parent. They're using a carrier as they believe is safe to do so. Nobody puts their child at risk for fun. We don't do that.
No.
So when we see carriers being misused publicly by brands, and then parents replicate that, they are doing so under the belief that that is safe to do so because the person they have purchased that from is showing that that is safe. So when we see children who, again, Lorna said we talk about safety. The key safety element for a child is always the airway, is always protecting the airway, because children cannot protect their own airway when they are young. So you'll hear us bang on about that constantly, is where is the airway? What's going on with the airway? Is the chin off the chest? You know, we always talk about that. So when we're talking about that, and then we see social media ads where the back of the carrier is above the nape of the neck, is up to the back of the head, above the top of the ear, it is incredibly frustrating. And even if that brand is demonstrating with a doll, which one brand very famously came back to carrying consultants raising concerns and was like, it's just a doll. And we were all like, mm-hmm. And if it was a human,
If
as
a brand,
most of these will be.
yeah, but if a brand, there's nothing wrong with using demo dolls, because we understand, we know that trying to make content or tutorials or photos with a real baby can be problematic at times. They get upset, they cry, they get overwhelmed,
yeah.
they need fed.
There's so much work.
Absolutely normal. So using a doll, there's nothing wrong with that, because but making sure you use an appropriate sized and weighted doll. Using your kid's wee plastic dolly is not appropriate at all, because it's not going to show anything. It's going to, you could put a tatty in and that would just show the exact same thing. It's not going to show how it sits, how it fits. And yeah, so if you are following a brand and they're using tutorials using one of those wee small plastic dolls that like about 30 centimeters long, just don't follow them and don't reach out to your local sling library or consultant. That's not appropriate. But if they're using a proper weighted demo doll and that demo doll does not fit safely in the carrier, then that's an issue. If you cannot get a doll to fit, then a newborn definitely will not fit in the carrier. And that's
our
what a
dolls
lot
are
of
smaller than
brands.
newborns.
Yeah, exactly. And also the way that our dolls sit, because they don't have a spine or muscles or bones, they will slump more and sit down. So they're kind of they go into that smaller position. Even newborn dolls or the bigger dolls as well, they do not sit the same way as the same age baby would. So if you can't fit a doll in the carrier, then it's not, a newborn is definitely not going to fit. And that's what a lot of carriers will say.
Yeah, I think with dolls are really, really useful. And I mean, we use them all the time. But for doing social media advertising, this isn't something you do immediately. It's not like, so when you're a consultant, sometimes you get people just dropping in and you grab whatever doll's available. So if you're at a sling library session and you show up with a 4-year-old, we don't have 4-year-old dolls. The closest we've got is a 1-year-old doll, and we will make do. You know, if you show up with a newborn and for some reason we don't have a newborn doll, we will make do with whatever we've got, but we can explain what's going on. If you are doing social media advertising, that's not something you do spontaneously. That is something that you plan. You have to spend time. You take your time out. You set your camera up. You know, da 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 da.
Yep.
So there is really no excuse to not be using the right equipment, other than you might not have the right equipment. And then that leads us down the rabbit hole of, for some of these brands, now obviously not a lot of not big brands. Big brands do know what they're doing, or should know what they're doing. Sometimes their social media isn't great.
Most of the time.
Yes, sometimes it's not great, but a lot of them are really good at taking feedback when consultants get in touch and say, you know, hey, just FYI,
there's an issue. We have an issue here.
Oh, yeah. Some brands even have consultants who work for them, or people who've trained have done consultancy courses. Like we were saying with Vern way back in episode 1, he went and trained as a canning consultant just so that he could make sure the information he was providing was correct. You know, other brands like OSHA, for example, they have canning consultants on staff who help people one-to-one with their carriers when they get in touch. So, you know, it's not that brands actively don't train, is that most of the big brands will have some form of training under their belt. But what we're talking about is more these sort of social media viral ones that pop up, that you'll see They'll be on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and they'll be in all the adverts. And people will be like, "Oh, look how easy it is." There was one that was really, really bad for this. It was a dupe of the Hippie Joey, which is a pouch sling, um, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's so easy. I'll just buy one of them. It's really cheap." And the thing is, you're
Yeah, that's
just
the thing.
throwing
It was
money
a
away.
lot cheaper as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. What's the thing? You buy
yeah.
cheap, you buy, oh no, that's the measuring
You
thing.
buy cheap, you
But
buy twice.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it is true because it's not going to work for you. Just because it's cheap
yeah.
doesn't mean it's, I mean, yes, you can get more budget friendly carriers, but
Oh,
sometimes they're just
absolutely.
too cheap to be true. And there's a lot of corners that are cut to make these cheap ones, and they're just mass made, mass produced, and slapped a label on and chucked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the stuff you see, like they'll be, oh, we'll just again, there was the wild ride dupes that were coming out. Again, another hip carrier.
The
Um,
Sonata is a
and
bad one for that.
yeah, yeah, they just the way they show carrying and they show it as hands free, and it's absolutely not hands free. They show it with
Hmm.
children who are too young to be carried in that position, or they
Yep.
don't provide guidance. If so, even
Hmm.
if they don't show it, their guidance doesn't explain. So when you do purchase the item, you won't know what age range it's suitable for. You won't
Yep.
know the stages your baby's suitable for, and nor should you. Like as a parent, your job
Mhm.
isn't to know that. Like that's my
Yep.
job as a consultant.
Mm.
It's our job. We need to know that.
Hmm.
Just like it's not my job as a baby wearing consultant to know everything there is to know about car seats. You know, that's a car seat
Hmm.
consultant's
Yep.
job. Um,
And we stay in
so
our lane.
yeah, exactly. And I think, but as a brand, you do have a social responsibility to provide
Hmm.
accurate information. So if your carrier is not suitable for a child under 6 months, you need to say that. And
Hmm.
some carriers simply aren't. They just
Yep.
don't go narrow enough at the base.
And the
And
panels are too big and too wide.
yeah,
Yeah. And
exactly.
yeah, and take that, like advertise it for what it does. A lot of these carriers that are advertised at the minute are they're decent enough carriers, but because they're marketed so badly and so dangerously, then us as consultants, well, that's a red flag and we will not promote them. We will not speak about them in a positive light. We will educate people on the dangers of them. And I have got a video on this Sonata carrier, and I am naming it because I have named it all over my socials already. Don't mind shouting about it. This is a carrier that everyone sees because hip carriers are really relevant at the minute. They are
As they
popping
should
up
be.
all
Hip
over the
carrying's
place.
amazing.
Yes,
Hip carry
we all know
love.
you love a hip carry, but like a safe hip carry you like, not one of these. So, yeah, so I bought one because I wanted to be able to get it like you would if you were buying it yourself, and I wanted to review it from the packaging. The carrier, it was claimed that it would arrive in 2 to 3 days or 2 to 4 days. It took 2 weeks to arrive to me. When it arrived, it smelled really badly of chemicals. It was really, really strong. It arrived in a simple plastic packaging with Chinese writing on it. So it come from China. That's why it took so long. And nothing was in the packaging. There was no information. There was no safety information. There was no instructions. All it was a wee leaflet advertising that I get a discount if I buy another one. And the biggest red flag, even though they were all red flags, the biggest red flag is the carrier itself had no safety labels, no tested labels, no fire safety labels, and these are all requirements when you create a carrier and sell mass produce a carrier. And the fact that it
Yeah,
had none of them, and then as you can see if you go and watch the video, the buckle failed in the video. And
excellent.
luckily I was using a doll, and the doll yeah, I let go and the doll fell out.
It's that's challenging because
Yeah.
again, there will be people who have that carrier and will love it and will swear by it.
Hmm.
And we are very much, if it works for you, that's great. The issue of the buckle failing is a problem.
Yep.
It wouldn't be the first carrier I've tried where the buckle hasn't been what I'd want it to be. I've done some testing of carriers in development, and feedback is often that the buckles need to be higher standard. I seem to remember talking to Carissa, who's the owner of Kahoo Baby, about the quality of buckles on carriers, and she was talking about, how you can get cheap buckles versus more quality buckles, and you can always tell from the type of buckle it is.
You can tell by the feel of them as well.
Honestly, there's a sound that a good buckle makes.
Yeah.
And it's a very satisfying click. And then there's the sound that cheap buckles make. And it's almost a gritty noise they make. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous to anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about. But
no one else
honestly,
is going to sit there with like 50 buckles going, oh, this one sounds nice. This one sounds good. But
there's
we
a
don't.
difference in the weight as well.
Yeah.
Like you can feel a good buckle's got a decent weight to it. A buckle that will not hold is very light.
Yep.
It simply just isn't strong enough. But I'm sure Chris was saying that there's because she obviously has had to go through all the testing regulations for Kahoo Baby. So she was telling me about the regulations for like the type of buckle that you have to use and everything. So it's probably a good thing to point out that in the UK, we do have, thanks to the whole of the EU, we have these regulations that we have to adhere to.
And there's different ones in America as well, isn't there? So sometimes you won't always be able to buy a carrier that's made in America because their regulations are different. I know there's a couple of
well,
you
could buy them, but you'd have to import them from the States or as a personal buyer. You won't be able
you couldn't retail.
We couldn't buy them in to retail them, no. Because they wouldn't have passed regulation in the UK. It's also the reason why a lot of European brands don't sell in America, because they'd have to retest, and it's very expensive to test carriers.
But it's worth it.
It's also why, it's also why you'll see some brands where we'll be like, oh, well, why don't you bring this out in a toddler size? Because they'd have to then retest it. Although you're just making the same thing bigger and maybe making a few adjustments for like offering additional support for a different age and stage of child, but they would have to pay to retest it. And you don't just test for inward facing, you test for inward, outward, hip and back. You have to test for all the positions, and it's challenging. I think when we're looking at how the testing thing works, though, the minimum weight is just whatever the brand says, as far as I understand. Like they don't have to test a minimum weight, they have to test a maximum weight. But that means that most brands will put something like about £7-ish, which is the average size of a newborn.
But that's the thing, like you can't test obviously with testing a maximum weight, what happens is the carrier is loaded with weight and shook about to see when the buckles fail and when stitching fails and stuff. So obviously you can visually see when that carrier fails that weight limit, and then it's like just below that, whatever the fail kind of goes by. With the minimum weight, you could put a feather in there and say it does like zero.
It'll take 2 ounces.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no weight, nothing's going to fail. And obviously it's not tested by newborns. It's not tested by real babies. It's tested by like weight and bags and stuff. So just because a carrier says it's suitable from a low weight does not mean it's going to be a safe fit. And I recently did a chat on that as well. Like there's a difference between newborn suitable and being safe from newborn, because it's two totally different things.
Absolutely. I mean, pretty much any carrier will do a small baby, like as in the weight of them. But as consultants, we don't look at the weight. We look at the size and shape of your child and the physicality of them. So I talk about this a lot because I think it's incredibly important. It's not something that the general public is aware of. Like they talk about the sort of age, the weights, clothing sizes, those kind of things, because that's what people think you need to know about sizing a carrier. But especially for the smaller babies, if we're looking at preemies and things like that, it doesn't really matter what weight your baby is. What matters is can they breathe? Like, do they need to be attached to tubes? Do they have any particular way they need to be held to protect their spine? Things like that are much more important. So when we're looking at carriers suitable for small babies, and even just generic newborns, When we're looking at carriers for them, we're looking at supporting their airway, we're looking at supporting their spine, their hips, we're looking at protecting that newborn scrunchy position. We're not looking at the weight, because a 6 pound baby and a 7 pound baby, the weight isn't the issue. It's, are they developmentally different? Is one sleepier than the other because one was born 2 weeks early?
Yeah.
You know, like, is that what we're looking at? And if they're tired, then, you know, is the thermoregulation issue? You know, like, these are things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than just, and a lot of the time people will
Than
come
the
in
weight.
and say, baby is 6 months old and they weigh this amount. And I'm like, doesn't matter. I don't care how much your baby weighs. Unless your baby is at the maximum weight or the minimum weight or they're preemie, that's the only weights I'm interested in, because it doesn't matter in the middle anywhere. It's about the size of the child, and it's about fitting in the carrier correctly.
Yeah. So again, when we're looking at these carriers that sort of flood the market, they'll be like, oh, well, they'll do from 7 pounds. And you're like, yeah, but you've just arbitrarily said that. And I'm looking at the carrier and seeing that that base does not adjust, which
Yep.
means that a newborn will not fit in there without their legs remaining within the carrier. If their legs are within the carrier, it's not a safe carry.
Yep.
Now, that being said, if you are with a carrying consultant and they tell you to put the legs in for a very specific reason, that is a very different kettle of
That's
fish
very
to what we're
different.
talking about. Typically, we want the legs out, and there's a reason for that. But with the carrier, if the carrying base does not adjust and the legs cannot come out without overspreading the legs, that carrier is not a newborn suitable carrier. If the back panel does not lower to the back of the neck, or you cannot do an adjustment such as raising the waist belt to pouch the carrier to reduce the height of the panel, if the panel is so wide that your baby's moving about in it because it's not able to snug around your baby. I mean, these are all things that would tell me it's not newborn suitable, even if the lowest weight on the carrier is 7 pounds. So just because the brand has said that does not mean it is a newborn suitable carrier.
Which is really confusing as well for like new
Yeah,
parents. Like
absolutely.
if they don't listen to us or they don't follow consultants, how are they going to know this information? Like they're
Yeah.
just going, and it's really confusing because now they're like, oh, but the brand, surely they should know better because they make this item and they make it and sell it. They should know best. But why should I listen to a carrying consultant? And that's what I kind of come across as well when I make videos on showing that brands don't always say or show this the right thing. And people are confused, like, well, how are we to know then? And it's like that's the issue. Like
That's the
parents will
problem.
not know. So if you see an advert for something that, so let's look at some things that people can watch out for. So if you see a carrier advertise that they're doing an advert, if the baby's legs are completely in a panel, if the panel is above their ears or above their head, then that is not suitable for newborns and that is unsafe carrying, and you should
Yeah.
avoid that brand basically. If you, on the alternate as well, if you're seeing adverts and the panel, the child is bigger, the legs are out, but the panel does not support knee to knee, and the panel is right down their back, then that's not safe as well because that's a fall risk. So what we're looking for when we're looking at safe carrying images is we want the panel of the sling or carrier to support nicely knee to knee, so a baby has got that wee M position. We want the panel to support up to the back of the neck. We want to see baby's ears. If you can't see the ears, something's not right.
Yeah.
And by seeing the ears, then we know that the airways are free and clear as well. So
Yeah.
we want to see those things. So airways is always your top thing. If you can't see a baby's head, it's dangerous and don't use it and don't follow those instructions.
Yeah. I think when you're looking at social media adverts, again, like, I don't know about you, but especially with newborns, I was just mindlessly scrolling while I was feeding my kids.
Yeah, that's what you do. Just
And
don't drop the phone on baby's head.
yeah, don't, I mean, and if you do, you know,
We've
it's
all
fine,
done it.
just feed them. We've all done it. We've all eaten curry off our baby's head. It's fine.
It's all good.
But it's fine. Um, but I think if you're just mindlessly scrolling, you're not looking for that. Do you know what I mean? You are not looking to say, oh, well, can I see the baby's feet? Can
Yep.
I see that that's no higher than the nape of the neck? We're not looking for that. We're just like, oh, that looks easy. You look at it
Or
and
it
you're like,
looks
oh,
pretty, it's a nice
yeah.
color,
Oh,
things like
that's
that.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so when that's what you're looking at, it's not it's not something that you're looking at going, do you know what? I need to ensure the safety of my child here. You make a reasonable assumption that if something is for
Mm-hmm.
sale in the UK, that it has been manufactured to certain safety standards and that it can be used the way it's been advertised.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's not an unreasonable assumption to make,
Yeah.
because we have the Advertising Standards Agency for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to advertise things that don't do what they say on the tin. But again, we have these carriers that are being mass produced overseas. Nothing wrong with being mass produced overseas.
Mm-hmm.
But when they are being sort of, essentially, we were talking about this earlier, white labeling carriers, where you're
Mm-hmm.
just going to like Alibaba or something and
Yep.
buying carriers and slapping a sticker on them and saying, I made this, and then selling them on. That is a
Yep.
problem.
And there's a lot, and
Because,
that's why a lot of carriers at the moment all look the same because most of
yeah,
them are just bought, mass produced. You choose the color, you stick your label on it, and you say it's yours. And it's
yeah,
false advertising as well because it's like you have not designed or made this or done any like
yeah.
proper thought into it.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at that as a parent, you wouldn't know. And the only reason you and I know is because, again, this is what we do. This
Yep.
is spend a lot of our days doing this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So when this is what you do for a living, you know a lot more about it than other people.
Hmm.
Um, when you are a parent, you're tired, your baby's been screaming at you for 4 hours, and you will do anything to calm them down. You're
Hmm.
not looking at that advert going, can I see the baby's
Yeah.
airway? Does that baby look secure? Is that carrier snug? You're not looking at that. You don't even look at, I'd like personally, I wouldn't look at anything more than the price.
Yeah.
Like I would look at the advert and go, oh, is
Is
that
that going to
expensive?
fix
Can
my
I have
problem?
that?
But is it affordable? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's £200. No, thank you. It's
Yeah.
£20. Ooh, I'll
Yeah.
drop 20 quid in it.
Bargain.
My husband
Because
and I
then
actually,
yeah, but a lot of the
yeah.
time as well, people will want a bargain option because if it
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
work for them, they've not dropped a load of money on them.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
buy something that's like £300 and it doesn't work for you, you're just going to use it anyway because you've spent that amount of money on it, which is a
Yeah.
shame. And you might
Yeah.
not know.
Exactly. I mean, I was going to say, my husband and I, we have a general rule in the household that we can spend whatever we like up to 50 quid and we don't have to like run it by each other. Anything over 50
Yeah.
quid becomes a purchase. Anything under that is an
51, it's
impulse.
51 on
Yeah.
easy check.
51, we need to run it through. But like, it's because things like, then that way, if he wants to buy like a computer game that's just come out, it's £45. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it's an incredibly privileged position to be in. Please let me
Yeah. I think
clarify.
maybe
I
I
do
should have this
appreciate that
rule.
that's privileged. Yeah, I'll have that rule. It does mean that you end up buying a lot of cheap carriers that are pre-loved, but that's beside that's one of the reasons the rule had to be implemented.
Or you buy pretty ones that you would just want to have in the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I think when you're looking at carriers, people, while it is a really valid secondhand market, um, sometimes people don't want secondhand stuff for their kids, which I get. I really do get that.
Hmm.
Because they're like, well, why would I buy a secondhand like Bako or something at
Mm.
50 quid when I could buy this brand new carrier for 50 quid?
Mm.
And you're
Hmm.
like, because that Bako, although it's secondhand, is actually a much better quality carrier than that £50 one that's on social
Hmm.
media.
Yep.
And that does not mean that one is inherently better for you. It's just that one has met all the relevant safety standards, has longevity within the market, has been through has been through lots and lots of families, as in like it's got lots of customer use cases.
Hmm. Yep.
Whereas the other popped up last month and is doing an aggressive social media campaign. And will it be
Hmm.
here in 6 months? and having watched this happen for the last couple of years as it's got
Yeah.
more and more invasive, I would say, a lot of the brands that were popping up 2 years ago, you just don't see now. Like,
Hmm.
because they were 6 months and they were everywhere for 6 months and then they just disappeared.
Yeah.
Um,
And what you'll
and
see a
I
lot
do
of the
wonder where they
time,
went.
yeah, they just disappeared. But what you will
Yeah.
also see, and what I've been seeing a lot recently, is a brand will come up, there'll be some issues with that brand, and people will calling it out, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's isn't that same carrier under another name.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's what they will do as well, and they will jump from rebranding to rebranding. It's not a rebrand; it's just a totally different company, but it's the exact
Yeah.
same carrier. And there is this, I've seen this happen. There's a brand that is in the UK under one name, and it's in the US under another name, and it's in Australia under another name as well. And it's the same
Mm.
carrier because they're using, and it's not just this, it looks like the same carrier, it's the same shape and everything. It's the exact same advertising and the exact same pictures that they're using on these brands. So
Mm.
unless one of them is stealing from the other, which happens a lot as well,
Yeah.
it's the same brand, the same pictures and stuff that they're using. So that's an issue as well, because then you're like, oh, I've got an issue from that brand. Oh, but this one looks the same, but it's looks like a better brand. It's not always the case.
Yeah. Again, like, it's not something that parents should have to worry about. It's
Yeah.
when you're looking to purchase something, you should be able to assume that it's been through all the relevant testing and
Yeah.
that it has, and that the information you're receiving is correct. But I mean, I mean, a couple of years ago, there was an issue with the Mamiya carrier, whatever it was
Mm,
called at the time.
yeah.
It was Aldi were selling a cheap baby carrier, and it is inherently unsafe. It has
Yep.
got a very high back panel that cannot fold down. It's got a big cushion thing in it as well.
Yep.
It was very, very odd. And as consultants, we didn't like it. We thought it was inherently unsafe. It was narrow based, which meant that it had absolutely no longevity as a carrier. It would have
Hmm.
lasted maybe a month, but for that month, it would have been incredibly unsafe due to how the airway would have been positioned. So, as consultants, some people reached out to have that discussion, and we were ignored entirely.
Hmm. And
But
it's
as a parent,
still out.
yeah,
Yeah.
but as a parent, if you're walking down the aisle in Aldi and you see a baby carrier, why would you not think that that was a totally safe and suitable carrier for
Hmm.
your child? And then the thing is, you end up at sling libraries with people like us, and we go, "This is unsafe.
Hmm.
The only time
And
you
it's
can
a
use this
really
is once
hard
it's
thing
on."
as well. Yeah, like for us, if a
Yeah, yeah,
person, especially if
yeah.
they're freshly postpartum, they've gone out, they've spent their own money on a carrier, and they
Oh,
come
yeah.
into us, and we're like, it's such a hard discussion, and I have had to do it more times
It's a
than I
horrible
like
one.
to tell
Yeah,
someone that you've bought an unsafe option for your baby.
yeah,
And most of the time, the person is very, very thankful for that information because they
yeah,
didn't know, and they're very, very thankful, and they end up going away with a safe option and learn about safety and know how to carry confidently and correctly. But there has been some times where, like, well, I've got no money to buy another, and this is
yeah,
what I bought, so I'm just going to have to make it work. And trying to make an unsafe carrier work safely is very difficult, even for us. Like
it's very challenging.
and to drill into that parent that you need to be aware of these options, and at any point
Yeah,
take your baby out. And it's so hard.
yeah. It very much becomes, this is now no longer a carrier. It is a carrying aid with which you must give your child 100% of your attention at all times,
Yeah,
which defeats the purpose of having a
yeah.
carrier.
It's like,
Like,
what's the point of that then?
yeah, you may as well carry in arms.
Yeah.
So it's, excuse me, yeah, it's very much, these companies have a social responsibility that they do not use, that they do
Mhm.
not complete. Um, Again, not all brands, and there are some fantastic brands that do really, really good imagery. Again, talk about Kahu Baby a lot. Osha and another brand that do wonderful images.
Fire
Who else?
Sparrow,
Fire Sparrow, yeah.
Mamaruga,
Mamarugas are
Izara,
wonderful.
Mini Monkey.
Yeah. Nico.
Yep. I'm just looking behind Joy and Joe.
So, I mean, like I said, we can
looking
name
at all
loads
the
of
carriers
brands.
behind.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we can
what
name
one's
loads of
gonna pick?
brands that do great social media content.
Yeah.
You'll see brands where they come out and they do informational content where they're like, you can feed in this carrier and this is how you would do it safely. Again, for feeding, we would always recommend you get some support with feeding just to ensure that you're not missing any safety elements.
And
So I would
also,
recommend
feeding on a sling is never hands-free. You always
never
need to be supporting baby.
Yeah, so we would very much recommend getting support from your local sling library or consultant, or reaching out and getting a video consultation with Laurna. So these things are all very manageable, but some brands will show fantastic imagery. They will show inclusive imagery. Again, I know just because I was talking to Zoe at Osha about this last year, about how they very much look for inclusive imagery, and they don't just want it all to be middle class white women. They're trying to show
Yep.
a range of people using their carriers,
And
as
a
they
range
should,
of
'cause they have a range
sizes
of
as
people
well,
using
which
their
is really
carriers.
good.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, because there are a lot of different people in this world and we all use the same stuff. So, we should all have representation. So when we're looking though at the imagery that we do see, when you're seeing carriers where they put, they're like, oh, it's super easy, just poof, poof, and your baby's in. Well, yes,
There's a bit more to it.
to a certain extent. There is a
Yeah.
certain, but when you see them, like, thinking specifically about this type, sort of hip carrying ones that come out just now, they don't clarify that this is a toddler style carry or an older baby style carry. They don't clarify that. And when you get the carrier, they'll have a minimum weight on it, but that minimum weight doesn't tell you anything about the size and developmental stage your child needs to be at to be in that position.
Yep.
If you're looking at some of the baby carriers that we see that are marketed toward newborns that just do not adjust to fit a newborn, we are putting children into lives at danger, and it is dangerous. And nobody could blame the parents when they purchase a carrier that is advertised with that specific thing in mind. And people can say, oh, well, you can sue them. Cool, that will not fix the issue it will cause.
Yeah.
It doesn't fix the utter risk to a child's life if that goes wrong. So I think, while some brands do it really, really well and they have great imagery, they do wonderful social media content, they engage on their social media platforms. Again, Carissa does that really well. She answers questions and things on her TikTok and stuff. She does it great.
And also brands that work with consultants as
Yeah.
well. Like if you might have seen me on many brands' socials because they've reached out.
I don't follow you.
How rude. But yeah, no, I pop up everywhere, so you don't have to just follow me. I'm everywhere.
There is that. Your face is everywhere, yes.
So if you're sick of my face, I'm sorry. But yeah, so brands that work with consultants and are happy to work with consultants is a really good thing. So if you see a video, and also personally for me, I've had brands reach out and I'm like, nope, I don't agree with anything that you do, so I won't work with you. So I will only work with brands that I know that listen to me and take that feedback and will work with me in the correct way, rather than I'm not just going to create videos for a brand just because they're going to throw free carriers at me or some money. I have standards, and I stick to them. So, and I have had brands reach out and be like, oh, we would love to get some content for you, or we'd love to send you a carrier. And sometimes I'll take the carrier just so I can have it and show people like, okay, this is a carrier, this is how to use it correctly. But I will not always work with a brand that does not show or is continuing to show unsafe content as well. even if they're wanting to. But if a brand takes on that information and was like, okay, we hold our hands up, we've not been doing it well, we take your feedback, would you work with us so that we can get safe content out there? Then absolutely, definitely able to have that conversation and do some stuff. There was recently, I think you know about this as well. So there was a YouTube video of a brand showing, so they've got like different models of their carrier, and they did this video. It was 1 minute long, and they said, this is how to breastfeed in our carriers, and they showed it with the doll. It was, you know, the one, that one. It was very, very
Yes, I
unsafe.
do.
It was so bad. They did not cover any of the safety points. They did not
No,
cover
you did not.
what ages or when it would be suitable.
Nope.
And even in the caption, even in the post, nothing, no information on anything. So myself and several other consultants all commented on this video saying that it was unsafe, and their response was that it was scaremongering, and there was no need to, or no, what was it? A minute, you can't cover all of the safety points without scaremongering in a minute. So obviously, what do? I get the same carrier and I recreate the video because I'm like, let's
With
just
a
look
minute.
at this. Yes, I did the video. I covered all of the safety points. I was not scaremongering. I talked about how to position it, and I did it properly. And I redid it, and I did it all in under a minute. And I was like, so it is possible if you know what you're doing. It's not scaremongering. Talking about safety, you can obviously talk about safety in a scaremongering way, but knowing how to do it in a supportive, encouraging way is what we want and what we want to see. And not every post has to be about safety, safety, safety. You can have
No.
beautiful pictures. All it needs is to show safe carrying. It's not a safety post, it's a normal post, but it shows a beautiful picture of a parent carrying their baby, and it's done safely. It's not a safety post, it's a safe carrying post.
Yeah, well, that's it. Is like one of the best social media videos that my library had ever done didn't have any discussion in it. It didn't have any safety information. It was just a silly dancey video of someone putting my daughter in a sling. And it did really well on social media because it showed how easy the carrier was to use. That said, you know, I wasn't a brand. I was just doing stupid social media stuff. But had anybody asked, we would have had a discussion about safety. My daughter was also a lot older at the time. She was able to support her airway. It was fine. But we also had other videos that went over the safety of it. So I think there is very much a place for just silly videos where you're playing with the carriers and you're showing that they're fun, because they are fun.
Yep.
But when you are a brand and you make your money off of selling this product to people, you have a responsibility to ensure that the information you're putting out is not actively harmful. That video was actively harmful. It showed a very, very unsafe position. The video that I'm referencing that we did, my daughter was never in any risk. She would never have been at risk. That is not something that anybody would have been comfortable with when we were filming it. So absolutely, I think when you are a brand, you can have fun, you can make stupid videos, you can be silly and relatable and do all this stuff that does well for people like me who are up at 4 a.m. playing through TikTok, right? You can make those videos. What you cannot do is when you are told that your video is actively harmful and dangerous by people whose job it is to ensure that babies are carried safely, you can't turn around and go, you're just scaremongering. Like, be calm, just chill out. Like, no.
I'd be like, oh, it's
I'm
only
not
a
gonna chill
doll,
out.
it's fine.
People will die.
Yeah. And sadly,
No.
that's true
It
because
doesn't matter, it's just
babies,
a doll. No, it's not.
and babies have died in slings because that parent has followed information that they thought was correct. And that's what we are fighting really, really hard, and it sometimes feels like we're fighting a losing battle trying to get the correct safe information out there. And it is hard, and it takes up a lot of our time and energy where we could be doing other stuff and supporting parents. But like myself, I take the time to make videos to show safe carrying and explain how things are done in different ways and how to adjust things for different babies. And it's just it takes up a lot of time and effort where we could be using that time supporting parents one-to-one instead, which is what I always prefer to do. It's great working with parents and I love it every day. But when I have to take the time out because it's kind of like, and it's not just me, there's many consultants that will take the time out and make educational videos and try and push that. And it's the thing as well, because we are one person businesses or small businesses and going against these brands, that brand might have millions of views and we'll maybe get a couple of thousand if we're lucky. It's so hard to be able to push the right content, and it's always the silly content that I do that does well. It's like, please, if you've seen that video, go look at the good stuff.
Watch the rest. Yeah. But again, that's why when you're saying you can put the social media, you can put the safety information on the video. Like you can even put it in the notes. Like just put something in there. And I mean, looking at the brands that do social media well versus the ones that are just in it to sell carriers, you can see that, and you can see the brands that have a clear brand vision and a voice, and they want you to value their business. It's the same with consultants. You can see, like you say, where most of us are one-man bands or very small businesses with only a couple of people running them. These are labours of love. And the social media content, while we love working with people one-to-one, we can maybe see 20 families a week if we're lucky. If you're doing sling libraries, you might see 50 a week if you do multiple sling libraries a week, but you'll only see them for 5 minutes at a time. If you do social media content, you could potentially reach millions of people. And so you could be sharing that safety information so much more.
And also, we don't get paid for any of the content that we make. Sadly, unless we work with brands and have a collaboration with brands, then yes, we will get paid for that content. But most of the content that I make, and people know this, most of the content that I make is all free. I don't get paid for it. And it takes a lot longer. For a 1-minute video, it takes a lot longer. And I think I am going to do like a wee behind the scenes video, because people need to realize how much goes into like a wee silly 1-minute video. I need to make sure I've got the time. I need to block off time in my calendar so no one books in. So then that's losing money from maybe a paying customer. I have to set up everything. I need to plan what I'm going to do. I need to get the correct carriers. And most of the time I'll have like several bloopers, because I'll be like, I'll do it and then I'm like, oh, my face doesn't look happy. Or I'm like, oh, that angle's not right. Or I'll watch it back and I'm like, no, I'm not happy with the quality of that. I'll have to redo it. So it could take me over.
Rolled up.
My t-shirt, or like, or I forgot to turn around, or my hair is covering things and people can't see it correctly. So it could take me an hour sometimes to do a 1-minute video that you're going to see and maybe scroll past and not appreciate it. And don't worry, I don't hold that against you. But
you do.
Yeah. Please watch the whole video and interact with it. But yeah, it's a lot of time and effort, and unpaid time and effort and labor that goes into making educational content, because we have that passion and we want to make sure that people see the right information. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, not just turning up and turning the camera on. It's not as easy as that, especially when, like, I mean, you've seen my lighting rigs and my tripods and all of that. You don't see all of that behind the scenes. So I need to do a blooper reel, definitely.
So something I was going to say, but again, my brain is a hive of bees, so I forgot. But one of the things that people probably don't know is that about 15 years ago, we had a spate of bags in the UK called bags carriers. They were called bag carriers. And there was a number of deaths in those. And that's one of the things that led to the current safety guidance, which is commonly known as ticks. And you'll hear people talking a lot about ticks. There's now a lot of discussion that ticks isn't sufficient and we need new safety guidance. This is all ongoing in the background. But that's to say that even before social media was as big as it currently is, there were issues with carriers being missold and misused. Um, Bag carriers are illegal in the UK now. You still occasionally see them pop up in charity shops. If people like
Or
us
on
see them, we
Vinted.
buy them and dispose of them. Yeah,
Yeah. I've bought so many,
um,
cut them up.
yeah. But that's it. We buy them and we put them into our training piles, or because they're not used for general library sessions, we use them to show why they are unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to go into like training kits and stuff. But if we do see them, most consultants will pick them up because they're usually a fiver, and we cut them up and put them in the bin because they are that unsafe. They were hammock style carriers that you would put your baby in lying flat on their back. That inherently meant that their chest would touch their chin because they were in a hammock. And from there, the baby would usually be covered in the bag. They would sort of close it up
So
over the top
bad.
of the baby like a little cocoon. So it was really, really
Which
bad.
looks cute, but it's so dangerous.
Yeah, it's one of these things that looking at it now, you're like, how did that not raise every alarm bell from the moment it was conceived?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that as a parent you would question. And so
Yeah.
what I don't want to see as a consultant is I don't want to see this particular cycle repeat where we
Mm-hmm.
get a dangerous carrier onto the market that causes issues, and then we have to, as an industry, scramble to try and keep carrying alive in the UK
Mm-hmm.
because we lost it for centuries. And it was only the 1970s or something it started to
Mm.
really make a comeback into the UK properly. So, I mean, it's only been 50 years. Like, it'd be nice to keep
Yeah.
it going a bit longer.
Yeah. Definitely. Keep us working hard.
Yeah.
Maybe not for 50 years. I don't know if I'll manage that.
Oh, no, I'm too old for that.
Right. So I think, again, we could talk for hours on every subject, but we try and keep it in bite-size-ish chunks for you all. So we have a couple of questions. And again, a lot of the time we have answered the questions in the episode, but we like to kind of go through them again. So,
Acknowledge them, yeah.
is what do you do if you've got a carrier and you don't know if it's safe? Then just reach out and speak to your local consultant.
Yeah.
Find your local sling library. If you've listened to this and now you're not sure, reach out to us. Pop us a DM or an email, and we will get back to you. We will know if you tell us exactly the name of your carrier and the age and age of your baby. Then we will be able to basically just tell you if it's safe or how to use it correctly. And you got some questions there as well.
So, yeah, I've got one here that says, what do we do if we see a video that we think shows unsafe carrying? So, I mean, my answer is going to be the same as you. You're going to reach
Hmm.
out to your local educator, and that could be
Hmm.
your sling library, your local consultant. You could reach out to us. Just send it on and just be like, I have a question about this.
Hmm.
Do you think this is valid? Now, we can't promise that we can do anything about it, but we can
Yeah.
certainly engage with it. If you think it's unsafe, you're always welcome to comment on it yourself, of course.
Mhm. And ask the
However,
brand as well. Just
yeah,
say,
ask
and
questions.
as a lot of the time, if that brand deletes your comment or they don't reply to it, then that's a red flag as well.
Yeah,
If you ask a valid question like, "Oh, I didn't think a carrier over a head was safe," or "Is that a correct position?" Things like that. Ask any questions. Don't just call it out and say it's unsafe. Don't just go on the attack straight away. You have to ask the questions and give the brand a chance to respond. And a lot of the time they will really well answer that question, but then sometimes they don't. So yeah, reach out and
yeah.
ask the question as well. Um, and I've got another question here about influencers. So, what about influencers? I follow an influencer and she has repeatedly used her carrier unsafely. Um, Influencers are really, really hard because a lot of the
Yeah.
time their PR team will a brand will reach out to the PR team. So it's not always just because an influencer has a carrier doesn't mean they have contact with the brand, unfortunately. And for me, when I started out, I thought if an influencer has a carrier, that brand must have given them and it showed them how to use it. That's not always true. A lot of the time, a brand will send a PR package to the PR team. Sometimes that PR package will make it to the influencer, sometimes it doesn't, and they will get what they get. So if that carrier does not have correct information or support or fitting advice in it, then that person is not going to get that information and they will use it how they think. And we see that a lot. Influencers are one of the worst ones, and celebrities, because they will use it how they think, or they'll get a carrier that's not suitable for like 3-4 months, but they'll put their newborn in it and they'll do photos and videos. And also the fact that influencers and celebrities have millions and millions of followers. So if you send a wee DM, they're not going to see it, or their PR team's not going to see it. It's not going to get seen. You can comment on their post or their picture, but then you have to also be careful, because if that's a fresh postpartum parent, then coming in strong like that carrier's dangerous or that's so unsafe is not always welcoming. If you've repeatedly tried for years to contact a person who has had multiple children and continuously using it unsafe and showing it, not just using it unsafely themselves, but then showing it to millions of people. I know you know what I'm talking about here. And you've also reached out to that PR team, and the PR team has not responded, and you've tried to get in touch and they still haven't, then feel free to comment on their posts or mention it in a video.
Oh, I have a fun story. I was on TikTok and there was a nanny and she was talking smack about baby Bjorns, saying they were bad carriers and stuff. We've obviously spoken to Annika over at Baby Bjorn. They are what they are. But she was talking smack about them being narrow based. And I commented, I did a reply video saying something along the lines of, you know, the fact that the carrier's narrow based isn't a problem. It is what it is, blah, blah, blah. And then she came back and she was like, I would never recommend this, and then blocked me. And I'm just going, you are a nanny. Like, your job is to care for children, and your job is not just to care for children, your job is to care for families. And by having this attitude that you know better than someone who is a professional in this field, I wouldn't go to a nanny and be like, well, I know how to nanny better than you because I'm a mum, because I don't know how to nanny. I have no idea how to do it. But I know how I would parent a child, but you know, looking after somebody else's family, I don't know how to do that.
It's different.
Yeah, so I wouldn't presume to know that, but her attitude, and then obviously she went on and started bigging up £300 carriers that had donated carriers to her, you know. So I was like, okay, I see what this is. It's advertising under the guise of, I have knowledge that you don't, even when she clearly didn't have the knowledge that she was claiming. And I found that infuriating, because I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're obviously advertising, but without doing an ad. And again, under the guidance in the UK, you have to qualify if something's an advert. So if you'll see it on TikTok and stuff and on Instagram, you have to say if it's an advert, or if there's some kind of professional collaboration. So on a lot of Laurna's videos, you'll see that she's tagged somebody else in it and she's had to say, this was donated to me by this company, blah blah blah. So, and it's because she's required to legally to say that, you know, this is,
and it's also
not
transparency as well, to be to showing. It's like, and as well, like for me, I don't do it, but I know that a lot of influencers will be like, this is amazing, look at this, just because they've got it free, and then it'll go in a cupboard and they'll never use it again. I promote options and carriers that I use and I will have in the library. If I don't want to keep it in the library, if I don't agree with it, I will not promote it in a positive way. Maybe point out some negative options, but I will not have it in the library. And a lot of the time I have had carriers sent to me and then I'm like, no, it's not appropriate or it's not going to be suitable, so I will not promote it. But you still have
doesn't
to say
mean that's always going to be your opinion either.
No, exactly. My opinion's
you
changed.
can change your mind.
Definitely. And it has in the past, and people have called me out for it, and I've explained that opinions change. Another one that I had was a video that I did on showing a lot of the time, one of the biggest brands that we see a lot is ergo carriers, and a lot of time people will use them unsafely. So my video was showing how
Yeah.
to correct an unsafe position, and explaining why that position was dangerous. And somebody commented saying, just let people carry how they want. So I was like, well, obviously I wasn't having that. So I replied. And it turned out that she was a health visitor. And she was just going to
Oh my
let people carry
goodness.
dangerously. So yeah, that did really well for my video. Thanks. Thanks to that lady, because then everyone was arguing back with her and how she was incorrect and how she was wrong and how she should know better, and how if she was working for the NHS. I did ask if she had done any specialist training, and she hadn't. And she said she
I
would train
remember
through the
this.
NHS, and NHS
Yeah.
does not do baby wearing training unless it's
Some of them do.
specialists that brought.
To be
Yeah,
fair, I have trained some NHS.
yes, but like not as a whole. It's not part
Not
of
as
like the
standard.
normal,
Not as
not a
standard.
standard. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that was fun. And that made my video do really, really well, which then I think
Yeah.
it was like almost 3 million views I had on that video, just because this
Yeah.
one lady was negative, but then
Kept fighting. Yeah.
that she would not back down. But then that
Yeah.
pushed it out to more people, and more people benefited from that safe video, which
Yeah.
did really, and that's what I want. It's not just about the numbers, and it's different. Like if I was an influencer and showing like products and stuff that and getting money for it, then that's different. But I want my
Yeah.
videos to do well, because the more people that see it, the more people it's going to support and help. Because I
Yeah.
want them to know how to carry safely. So yeah, so thanks. So if you get angry on my videos, thanks.
Yay.
That
You're
was
like, bring the
always really
rage. I
good.
love it.
Yeah, and that's always another reason why some brands, when people will do that, they're not going to delete comments, they're not going to delete the video, because that
Yeah.
engagement is pushing out that unsafe video. So it works both ways as well, which
Yeah.
unfortunately a lot of the time I have to bite my tongue and rein myself in and be like, I'm not commenting, because I know it's just
Yeah.
free engagement that's boosting your bad video that you're not going to delete.
Yeah. It's really hard. And
So
again, as consultants, I mean, we're just desperate for people to carry and carry safely, because we know the benefits of carrying are phenomenal.
yeah.
It's so important for brands to take their social responsibility seriously. They need to understand that, yeah, they're trying, we understand they've got a bottom line. We understand they're trying to push their product. We get that. But like you said, you do not make a 1 minute video in 1 minute. You need to set everything up, you need to get everything ready. So we know it's taken them time to do this. A lot of them have marketing departments to do this. Like at that point, you have the time, you just need the skill. If you don't have the skill, you can invest in it. I mean,
Yep.
doing a consultancy course or even a peer support level course, hell, even just learning how to use your own product safely and how to
That would
demonstrate
be the
it
best way.
safely. Yeah.
That'd be the
You don't
very
need to know how
minimum
to
we would
work
expect.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that's it. You do not need to know how to use everything in the market, but knowing
Yep.
your carrier inside and out should be the bare minimum. And knowing how to advertise it in a responsible and safe manner should be a requirement. And unfortunately, what we see on social media a lot is not that. We see them just horsing it out. You know, everybody's a goal. Just somebody buy it. You know, and
It's
it's
sales over
frustrating.
safety, and it should never be
Yeah,
that way. It's
absolutely.
sales are a benefit, but as long as you're providing a safe content.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think we will close up, because again, we could talk for hours on
Well,
this, and
yeah.
we
You
this
and I
is
binge
always
a
a
lot, yes.
hopefully this wasn't a ranty episode.
I think
I
it was
mean,
an anti-episode.
yeah, it's a given. It's allowed in this one, I think, because there's a lot to rant about. So if you had enjoyed this episode, please engage with our videos, ask questions. If you have any questions following this episode, we will answer them in our socials. Pop us a message, get in touch, and yeah, and hopefully you learned something and got the right information and know now where to get the right information from.
Yes,
So thank you.
yes. Thank you, everyone, as always, and a big thank you to Carifit, as usual, for sponsoring us. So,
Yes.
with that, I'm going to go. Again, I have children that need dealt with. So,
Well, no, not right now, but yeah, I will. Thanks. See you on the next one.